We break into programming to bring you some breaking news coming from Lebanon, where there's been an Israeli airstrike on Beirut's southern suburb of Dahiyeh. These are the latest pictures that we're getting right now from Beirut's southern suburb, Dahiyeh, where once again we understand that there has been an Israeli airstrike on the densely packed southern suburb. Let's bring in Zaina Khudr joining us on the telephone from Beirut. Zaina, what are you hearing?
Well, Doreen, as far as we know, as you can imagine, this happened just minutes ago. There's been an Israeli airstrike targeting the southern suburbs of Beirut. Like you mentioned, this is a densely populated area where hundreds of thousands of people live. We still do not know what the target was. In the past, well, ever since the November 2024 ceasefire came into force, every time the Israeli military would carry out a strike in the southern suburbs of Beirut, and they've done this quite a few times, the last time was in June, it would come with a warning. There would be an evacuation order. So people would be given an hour to leave the area. This time, the strike came without warning, which could suggest that this was an assassination. Again, we can only speculate at this point. It just happened a few minutes ago. People are, scrambling out of the area, as you can imagine. There's a lot of concern, a lot of fear, because as of late, the Israeli military has been intensifying its strikes on what they call Hezbollah targets, whether they're members of the group, whether if it's the group's assets. So the trajectory, really, of a long simmering conflict has been gradually escalating as of late. So what we know now, an airstrike targeting Beirut's southern suburb. I'm just north of Beirut as I speak to you, and I saw and heard those Israeli warplanes because they were flying very low.
Zaina, give us some more context as to the particular area of Dahiyeh for those viewers who may not be familiar with it.
Well, the southern suburbs of Beirut, like we mentioned, it's densely populated. Many people live there. It is considered a place where Hezbollah has a lot of influence. It is also where Hezbollah supporters live. Last year, during the war, before that ceasefire came into force, the southern suburbs of Beirut was repeatedly targeted. Hundreds of buildings were destroyed. Israel alleges that Hezbollah has military infrastructure in the area. We talk about a ceasefire, but in reality, that ceasefire did not put an end to the war. In fact, Israeli strikes continue almost on a daily basis. But most of those strikes have been either in the southern suburbs, in southern Lebanon or in eastern Lebanon. The strikes in the southern suburbs of Beirut are quite rare.
Zaina, we're just looking at the Reuters news agency and also now reporting, as you were saying, that the Israeli military itself is now saying that it struck what they describe, what they call as a quote-unquote militant from the Lebanese group Hezbollah. I know information is still coming through, but are we getting any sense or any idea at this hour of who the target was?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, usually when they issue forced evacuation orders, it is not an assassination. But when these strikes happen without prior warning, then it is most likely an assassination or an assassination attempt. Last year we saw this happen quite a few times. They killed the head of Hezbollah, the Hezbollah Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah, in a major strike in the southern suburb of Beirut. They also killed his successor. A few days later, they killed his successor. They killed high-ranking commanders in Hezbollah's military wing. So it is still, we can only speculate if indeed this was an assassination, who the target was. But clearly this is an escalation. We are going up that ladder gradually. Israeli officials have been, in the past few weeks, almost on a daily basis, say that Hezbollah is rearming. They're accusing Hezbollah of rearming. They're also accusing the Lebanese government, the Lebanese state, of not doing enough in their commitment to disarm non-state actors in Lebanon, including Hezbollah. So the pressure has been growing on Hezbollah, and the pressure has been growing on the Lebanese government, on the Lebanese state as well. Yes, we talk now about a strike in the southern suburbs of Beirut, but like I said, on a daily basis, there are Israeli drone strikes targeting cars, targeting motorcycles. And according to the Lebanon's health ministry, just a few days ago, they released the casualty toll since that ceasefire in November. More than 300 people, 330 plus, have been killed, and nearly 1,000 people have been injured since that ceasefire, which was supposed to put an end to the war. And according to the United Nations, now the Lebanese Health Ministry does not identify the victims, but the United Nations confirmed that more than 100 of them were civilians, and women and children included. So this is an ongoing conflict, which, and tensions are building up. And many see this really as a form of pressure on Hezbollah to agree to disarm. It's a form of pressure on the Lebanese state to speed up, if you like, the disarmament process. And it is also a form of pressure on the community or the supporters of Hezbollah. They're trying to turn them against the group.
Okay, Zaina, we'll let you go for now. Thank you so much for that reporting from Lebanon at this hour. We have with us our correspondent here, Ali Hashim, joining us here on set. And Ali, we're just a few days away, aren't we, from that one-year anniversary of when that ceasefire was signed, right, between Lebanon and Israel after the war, of course, of last year. Ever since the supposed ceasefire has come into effect, as Zaina was saying, there have been regular strikes, but mainly in the south of Lebanon as well as in the eastern part in the Bekaa Valley. Now you have one in Beirut itself. How much of an escalation is this, and what does this mean?
Well, the ceasefire was more of a ceasefire in principle from the Israeli side. So if we just go through the Israeli attacks over the past year, there's been more than 300 persons killed, including children, including women, and of course men, over the past 12 months. And in regard to Beirut, there have been a couple of strikes in Beirut, but one of them was similar to this, and it was an assassination. And it seems this is an assassination of a very senior member of Hezbollah. The second strike in Dahiyeh was also in March this year, and it was after a warning. So this is probably the third time since the ceasefire that the southern suburb is being hit. And today, what's being hit is a building in the middle of a very busy street. So now everyone is watching to see who is the Hezbollah member who was killed, but also we need to know how many people were killed alongside this.
Are we getting any information on the number of casualties or those who were injured?
I'm receiving a lot of videos, footage coming through social media, through WhatsApp groups. A lot of ambulances heading towards that area. It's a very busy area. So, this is an escalation. Of course, it's an escalation. Everything that's been happening over the past weeks has been in the context of escalation. And the Israelis are not hiding this. They're talking about this issue clearly and openly, that there is a gradual escalation of operations in Lebanon.
With the aim of what? Is it to disarm Hezbollah, as the Israelis and the Americans have been talking about, as well as some of the Lebanese government?
Well, there are two layers here. There's the layer of the disarmament and also the layer of the Israel accusing Hezbollah of rearming. So it's not only about disarming. Hezbollah is, according to the Israelis, and also some of Hezbollah's leaders are saying this. Naim Qasim said they are recovering. So the idea is that this is a war. The war continues to be fought, but it's being fought from one side. It's not being fought from two sides. So Hezbollah is not retaliating. Hezbollah is not hitting. Hezbollah is not launching missiles or shooting on Israeli troops, despite the fact Israel currently is occupying more than 8 positions inside Lebanon. And it's attacking everywhere. Today, this morning, there was an attack in Ait al-Sha'ab. Yesterday, there was another attack. There were several attacks in the Biqa, in Shmistar, in the south. So Lebanon, and the irony here is yesterday was Lebanon's Independence Day. And between yesterday and today, the complete map of Lebanon has been covered with Israeli attacks. So the idea is that this war hasn't ended on the 27th of November. It has ended in principle, but in practice, it's just going on.
On the issue of response, though, I mean, this is something that the Secretary General, Naim Qassem, has spoken about. He said that we are being patient, but at the end of the day, patience will come to an end, right? And I'm rephrasing his comments here. We wait to see what Hezbollah says, and generally after such attacks, a statement is put out. We wait to see that statement, but can we expect a response from Hezbollah this time around? I know we're going into the realm of speculation here, possibly.
Well, frankly, this is one of the times when no one can really analyze or speculate, given the fact that the cards aren't on the table anymore. Hezbollah, the Hezbollah we knew before, isn't the same Hezbollah today.
In what sense?
In a sense that Hezbollah, the one that we knew before the war, was a Hezbollah that we can predict its own actions. Now we cannot predict their actions. Now we don't know what they're doing, where they are. Even in Lebanon, their own footprint isn't like before.
But many say that's actually a strategy that the group has now adopted ever since the high-profile assassinations. Correct?
Absolutely. That's a new strategy the group has adopted. But is that leading somewhere? Is that leading to a situation of retaliation, of rebuilding the deterrence they used to talk about? This is something we cannot really predict about. We don't know if Hezbollah is going. I mean, one of the main challenges was the Israeli attack on Iran, and everyone was kind of predicting Hezbollah might get involved in this war, and they were not, despite the fact that was really a very big war. And now, is Hezbollah ready to engage in, let me say, a few days of fighting with Israel, of recreating a situation of deterrence in a way or another? There are big questions, big question marks over this issue, especially with the fact that Hezbollah seems to be wanting a time of, let me say, of calm, at least kind of relative calm, to be able to rebuild, to recover. So would they be interested in engaging in a war? Big questions here.
What will the Lebanese government be thinking at this point? I mean, we've not heard yet. Many people in Lebanon accuse the Lebanese government, in fact, of turning a blind eye to what's happening in the south, like the daily violations by the Israelis. The Lebanese government have been pressured and have been putting pressure on Hezbollah to disarm. What will they be thinking at this point?
Well, the Lebanese government has a mandate, which is disarming Hezbollah, and that was kind of agreed on in the cabinet. But the issue is that what can the Lebanese government really do? The Lebanese government over here in this whole equation is incapable of doing anything. It cannot defend Lebanon when the Israelis are attacking. It cannot disarm Hezbollah practically. It's just it's just issuing statements whenever it can. And given the fact over the past months, we've seen a shift in the position from the Lebanese government, from being very harsh on Hezbollah to adopting a new policy, whereas the president and even the prime minister, who was very, very outspoken when it comes to Hezbollah, they started to redefine their words in a way where they aren't really interested also in giving the Israelis more papers or cards on the table. So they have to balance. And with the Israelis not abiding by the deal, there is a ceasefire. The Israelis were not abiding by this ceasefire. The Lebanese were abiding by this ceasefire, at least this is what they say. So what next? The Lebanese army has been in the south trying to disarm Hezbollah, getting into Hezbollah places, getting the weapons. There were some some activities that are documented through the mechanism, the United States-led operation room. So, but the issue is that the Israelis are still in Lebanon. They are expanding their presence in Lebanon. They have more positions, 8 or 9 right now even, in Lebanon. And at the same time, they're attacking anytime they want, and they're attacking everywhere, including the suburbs of the capital.
Okay, Ali, we'll leave it there for now. Thank you so much for that analysis. We're going to bring in Samuel Romani, who's an associate fellow at the Royal United Services Institute. You're joining us from London this hour. Thanks so much for your time. So information just slowly trickling in about this attack, this Israeli attack on Lebanon's southern suburb of Dahiyeh that is in the Lebanese capital. But just give me your initial thoughts and your initial reading as to what's happened.
Well, as the previous guest alluded to, I think it is a continuation of a broader trend. We really saw a ceasefire that was announced almost a year ago today, but there's been more than 1,000 attacks from the Israelis against Lebanon since then. Hundreds of people have died, and there's been an intensification of those strikes really in recent days because there's skepticism that Hezbollah is actually disarming. There's concern that they're advancing around the Litani River. And also, there's the lack of retaliation coming from Hezbollah and a lack of attention from the new Lebanese prime minister against what's happening in the south. So that climate of impunity combined with insecurity is driving Israel to expand these attacks.
What is Israel's ultimate aim here? Is it to drag Lebanon into another war?
Well, I think that Israel realizes that it can decapitate the senior leadership of Hezbollah and it can degrade its capabilities. It proved that in 2023 and 2024, but it also remembers the lesson of 2006, where it knows that it really cannot destroy it because it's a political movement that's ingrained inside Lebanese society. So I think that the aim is really to put pressure on the Lebanese government to do more, to push for the disarmament of Hezbollah, and also to ensure that through the use of military attacks, that Hezbollah does not launch surprise rocket strikes on areas where Israelis are resettling, like the town of Metula. There's lots of ultra-Orthodox Jews who are close to Netanyahu's coalition who are building settlements there. So they want to make sure that the people in the Israeli-Lebanon border can settle peacefully. But the problem is, and the irony is, the more they carry out these strikes, I think the greater insecurity that those people face.
You were mentioning the Lebanese government just a moment ago. How much does this actually pressure the Lebanese government?
Well, Lebanese new government basically came in with a mandate to, in part, disarm and degrade Hezbollah's capabilities to prevent a future war. So this meant that negotiations between Israel and Lebanon are kind of being put a little bit on ice. It's been unclear exactly where this is going to go, what's going to happen. And yeah, I think that in general, there's a feeling also in the United States that the situation is pretty much untenable. I think we saw Tom Barrack describe Lebanon as a failed state. We saw the various other comments like this that have led to Israel to feel that they need to use military force to stabilize the situation because the Lebanese government's not doing enough.
Right, but, you know, Samuel, there is a supposed mechanism that is in place for monitoring and enforcing the ceasefire agreement between Lebanon and Israel. But how do you explain this mechanism really simply just turning a blind eye to the pretty much daily Israeli violations that are documented in the south of the country and in other parts like the Bekaa Valley, yet pressuring the Lebanese army itself to work against its own people?
Yeah, well, I mean, there is obviously a mechanism that was put into place in combination with UN Phil, as well as also that was agreed to by the Americans and the Israelis. I mean, there was going to be reports of violations, basically trying to distinguish between whether these are aggressive acts or self-defense acts. There's on-the-ground verification teams that are there that are effectively trying to not only monitor these violations, but also help the Lebanese armed forces remove and degrade Hezbollah infrastructure. And but the problem is these are not really there in spirit when the goal and the driving force of the Israeli government is to basically kind of prolong and continue this war. And it's exactly the same thing that we're seeing in Gaza also. A decrease in intensity since October 10th, but continued attacks, including the one that just happened that may have killed up to 33 people and even damaged hospital infrastructure.
Samuel Romani, you're an associate fellow at the Royal United Services Institute, joining us from London this hour. Thank you very much. Noor Audeh joining us from Ramallah on the occupied West Bank. Noor, what is being said on the Israeli side of things about this attack in Beirut?
Well, Darine, the Israeli army issued a statement saying that it had carried out a so-called precise targeted strike, and then the news line started emerging. The target of that attack is reportedly Abu Ali Tabtabai, who is believed in Israel to be the chief commander of Hezbollah's armed wing. He is believed to be number 2 in Hezbollah after Naim Qassem, the leader of Hezbollah. According to Israeli sources, according to the Israeli Broadcasting Authority, actually, this strike was coordinated with the American side. They knew about it ahead of time, and they gave it the go-ahead. This is, of course, the first time Israel, during the ceasefire, carries out such an attack inside Lebanon's capital, in the southern district, in the Dahiyeh, Hezbollah's stronghold, without any prior warning. This kind of assassination we have not seen in al-Dahiyeh since the ceasefire about a year ago, almost to the day.
Noor, how is it explained that Israel just continues to attack Lebanon in this way, despite a supposed ceasefire in place?
Well, look, I mean, as a matter of news, I have to tell you that the Israeli side always says that whatever they're doing is in line with the ceasefire and in line with their understanding with the American administration. But let's just zoom out a little bit. Israel, for the past few weeks, has been talking about war with Lebanon being a matter of if, not of if, but of when. There has been talk about Hezbollah restocking, Hezbollah rearming, about Israel not accepting the possibility of Hezbollah recuperating from the war that ended about a year ago. And so this has been building up for some time. Throughout the past year, Israel has said that it will enforce the ceasefire in Lebanon with fire. An oxymoron, everybody knows, but that is really the official line. And right now what we're seeing is a new escalation, if you will, in this context. And we have the Northern Command in Israel, while telling the population in northern communities that there are no new instructions, they are convening to see what the ramification of the very escalation that the Israeli army carried out. So this is probably not the end of the story yet, Darine, because we don't know what Hezbollah's reaction is. We don't know if the assassination has succeeded, and we don't know if this is the only strike in store as far as the Israeli army is concerned. But certainly this is part of the pattern that we've seen over the past few days about how Israel is dealing with Lebanon, how it's testing the boundaries of how much more violence it can exact before Hezbollah reacts.
Thank you so much, Noor. Thank you for that reporting from Ramallah and the occupied West Bank. So once again, you're looking at the latest pictures we're getting from Beirut, Lebanon. It's a southern suburb of Beirut, in fact, called Dahiyeh, where we understand there has been a targeted assassination, that's according to the Israelis, of a member of Hezbollah. And the target, according to Israeli media, has been reported as a commander of Hezbollah's military wing and Unit 3800. We wait to hear from Lebanon about what exactly has happened on their end, and we will keep you posted on any developments that we get at this hour.